Hello and thanks for watching this Cloud9 ERP Solutions video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. In this series of videos of Executive in the Know, we're creating a notification to know when a manufacturing production order's labor has gone too high, over 10% higher than it was expected to. The goal here is to be in the know about problems, cost overruns that could, if caught quickly, not be that big of a deal. You can jump in, solve the problem, and be done with it. But if caught in a month or 2 months or 6 months or longer, could cost you a lot of money. So let's get started. So this example is we're looking for production orders where the actual labor was far greater, or by 10% far greater than the production order was anticipated. So if we open up a production order maintenance, and we'll open up any one of them. If we go to totals, Acumatica tracks the labor, the actual, and the variance. Now notice the actual here is 0 because this is a planned order. It's not released yet. If we take a look at a completed order, so to do that, we can click on our status column here, clear everything, and we want completed and maybe closed. We'll look at a couple of those. We'll open up this production order 20. We'll go to totals. And notice we now have labor of $49.50. We expected it to be $49.50, but it was $27.50, so we actually saved a little bit. Ended up being $22 less to produce this item. So how do we get this information? First off, if I take a look at the production order list, our inquiry screen, it doesn't show that information. And the premise behind creating notifications is we need the data, then we create the business event, the actual event that's going to occur, to then send out a notification template. We call it email templates, or something different, such as an SMS message. So you have those three parts. You have the data, which is here, and you have the event, and then you have the conveyance, how you're going to send and notify this out. So, but we don't have it here, right? We don't have the variance amounts of the labor. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into edit this generic inquiry. And what we need from this is to figure out where are we going to find that value. So if we view the inquiry again, we'll open it up again, and we'll open up any production order. We'll go to our totals tab. Where are we getting this data, this labor value? We need to evaluate it and see if it's greater than this labor or planned labor. So if we hold down, if we're a customizer, we're in the customizer role, we hold down the control key, notice the question mark pops up, gives us the ability to take a look at this particular field. We want to do that because we want to figure out what data class or table this value is coming from. So this is the field name and this is the table. Now, if we go back to our inquiry, you'll notice we don't have that AM PROD total. So we need to add it. Now, in systems where you really don't know, it's difficult to understand how to join tables. There's a concept of joining tables. In order to know how this table relates to this table, relates to this table, they are joined through a relationship here in this area. Now, all this work has been done, but what's not done is the AM prod table. If we add it, we need to be able to link it through a key field accordingly. Now, Acumatica makes this easy. You highlight a table. The base table in this case is our production item. And we click Add Related Table. Acumatica knows which tables are related to this main table. So I've already scrolled down here. You can see it right here. Production total is where we were looking for. If we go back, remember AM prod total. That's the name of the table. So we're going to add that. We highlight it, and it's not clear. You click Add, but it doesn't do anything. First, you got to select the related table, and then you can add it. By selecting it, it puts together the join, the relationship. We'll click add here. And now we have that new table. Now, we did this because, why? Well, because we needed to get this field in the result grid. So if we go back, we go to results grid, we can add a new column, but if we don't have the AM prod total, we won't be able to get that variance of labor. So we'll look for variance. Notice you type a few letters, you'll find it. Variance of labor. And now we have that field. Now, if we go back to our production order and we go back to our inquiry, and we scroll to the right, you'll now see the labor amount. Now, there's a variance here. We could decide how we want to evaluate this. So, again, if the production labor was estimated to be $45, but it's zero, then you have a $45 minus. We're looking for positive values. We want to know when it goes over. Now, we may not want to know when it goes over a penny. That might be too much for us. So we could do one of two things. To make it simple, we could just look for anything greater than zero, and that we could include in our report. But if we wanted to go a little bit more complicated, we can go back and we can add our planned labor. And then we could also do a formula. So we can come in here and we could do a formula, some sort of condition. So we can say, this is our conditional, it's IIF, and it needs an equal in front of it. But our expression is going to be, keep in mind when you start to select things, it highlights everything down here, so you could wipe out what you've done. So before you start to select a field, you select a field, it'll put it in here. Make sure you get your cursor there. So I'm going to look for, first our planned. And you can see it's called plan labor, not planned labor. We'll get our cursor back here again, and we'll double click on it. And then we're going to get our other field, which is actual labor. And we're going to do an evaluation of the two. And for this, what I did is I threw this into Excel. So here's our planned labor, $49.50, and here's our actual labor. So in this case, this is very, very small amount. It's only 50 cents difference. And I put a formula together. Essentially, if this value is greater than our planned times 0.1, then it's yes, otherwise it's no. So what I did is I said, all right, well, let's try something higher than 10%. So that would be about 55. And you can see it turned into yes. So this formula works. Formulas in Acumatica are very similar to the formulas in Excel, except mostly accepting these quotes. We use single quotes. So I'm going to just go down here and I'm going to paste this just so I can take a look at it. I'm not going to use, obviously, the Excel values. But I am going to say the difference between my planned labor and my actual. So that's equals here. So that's going to be the C2 value. And then we're going to say greater than. And then we're going to take the actual planned labor times 0.1. And essentially, this is very similar. If it's true, what's the true? And if it's false, what's the false? So in this case, yes, remember I use single quotes here, and no. We'll take this out. I just needed it for visibility. And we'll validate, and we'll click OK, and we'll save it. I am going to add this caption here. And it's going to be labor variance 10%. And we'll go back to our production order maintenance. And we'll scroll over to the right. And you could see yes and no here. So let's move this over a little bit. And we'll move our other two columns. Unfortunately, they both say labor. We know that this is the variance labor. And we know that this is the plan labor. So let's go in and actually let's give this a caption as well. This one's variance. And this one's plan. We'll refresh again. And now what we could see here is all of these are fine. The variances are negative, so of course those are always going to be fine. This one says no, mainly because maybe I needed greater than or equal to, and they're too close. I think the other thing we want to do too is we want to just filter by closed and completed, because otherwise we're going to be dealing with actual labor rates that are zero. So for example, if we take a look at this one, the plan was 1083 and it was positive 3917, so it didn't make it. If we open it up, we could see it firsthand. So the labor was 1083, but it ended up being actually $50. It's planned at 1083. So that's greater than 10%. Spot check another one. Always spot check your data. Make sure in real conditions it calculates right. Otherwise, you're going to be running reports with misinformation. So check a few records. Make sure you have your formulas correct. Under totals here, it was $45 for planned, and it ended up being $85.83. And you can see it's $40.83. I'm going to go in here and make one other change, and I'm going to add greater than or equal to. Let's also add our actual labor here so we can see it firsthand. We'll save it. Scroll over to the right, grab it. Put it in between, because it is essentially at the end, but our column configurator is taken over, and that's why those other ones are there. So if we scroll over, so what we're seeing here, however, is we're getting no's anytime the variance is zero. So I went back. I had one issue which was different than my spreadsheet, which is I had my planned labor minus my actual labor, when it's actual minus planned labor. So if we take a look now, we're getting labor variance is over 10%, so you can see it here. These are no. This one's yes, because the plan was 20, the actual was 40, so it's double. It was 100% more. If we go down to these, the planned and the actual, these are all the same, 0, 0. This one's a no because it's actually a negative variance. And then you have another one here. The plan was 1083. But the actual is 50. So again, spot check your values. Make sure that they look clear to you and they're testing. You can open up your production order. I added these columns so I could see them here and evaluate them here rather than have to open up every one. Later on, you may take some of these columns out. You don't need them. But now that we have a good data set, we can take a look at the ones that hit that yes. And we can do so as soon as they are closed or completed. So let's go into our business events. We'll create a new one. Okay. So production, closed production order is greater than 10% labor, actual labor. And what we'll do here, I need to pick a screen. So we'll pick our production order maintenance. Many times you may want to use an inquiry, a fresh inquiry, not the base one that you use. So if you go into this generic inquiry, you could take a look at it and then create a replica of it and not mess up or mess around with the normal one that you use for production. So keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to go back because I'd like to get a filter out of this. So we could do this a number of different ways, but what I want is a filter where my variance, labor variance, is equal to yes. This way we can keep track of just those records. And I also want a status equal to completed. Okay, so now I only have one. I can make this filter completed, and we'll put an or condition in here. So equals completed or equals closed, and we'll close the bracket. Now we're getting a few. So what we want is anytime a record, a production order, gets inserted into this filter, we're going to have a business event. So to do that, if we go back, we'll say record inserted. And save it. And we want to use that new filter because we don't want to see every time a production order is created. We only want to see the ones that are closed or completed. If we create a new production order, we're going to create one of these. Our planned labor should be $4.50. But what we're going to do is we're going to release the order, get it into the shop floor, and then we're going to create a labor transaction. So we can do one of two things with this labor transaction. We could put the labor in or the start and end time. In this case, I'm going to put in 7 hours for a specific employee. And I'll take it off hold and I'll release that labor transaction. I'll close it. And when I refresh, notice we have a big labor variance, certainly more than 10%. Now, the business event itself here isn't quite ready yet. Remember, we need a subscriber to finish this off. But it's also not going to look at anything until I close or complete this production order. So we'll hold that for a second. We'll create a new email notification. Choose our from. We'll pick a to. Doesn't matter who we send it to. This is just an example. And here we can put in some information in the subject. Production order. We'll use the field from the actual production order. We'll go in here under production item and we'll look for our order number. And then we could write a message. We'll take the same field. We don't have to do it over again. And then you could even give it some information. So we can insert a data field and show the actual and put some headings in there. So we could say actual and you could pretty this up again with HTML. If you watch the video about inventory item not meeting a minimum margin, you'll see how we did that one. We took some other stuff. You can also look for other videos where we've actually taken HTML from a Word document, converted it to HTML, took out the headers and everything. You can do that. We're going to hit save here. So now that we have this email notification, keep in mind, you can also do other things, such as, for example, an SMS notification. You can send a text message to let somebody know. Our sales demo site is set up for SMS message tests, but we've done videos there that show you how to do a mobile SMS notification, how to set up the SMS provider. So you can take a look at that, but you have all these different options if you want to be alerted in a more direct way other than an email. So if we go back, we now are getting an indication immediately based on a record change. The minute a record gets inserted from this shared filter, then we will send out this email. So let's go back to our production order, and we're creating quantity 1 here. So let's create a move transaction for that quantity 1. Our operational ID will go right down to the inspection. When we finish the final operational ID, that should mark this production order as completed. So we'll take that off hold and we'll release it. And we'll refresh. And now you'll notice it's completed. So if we go into all email, now you can see that email here that's been created. We ran it a couple of times. And you can see the body of it. Warning, production order 50 is exceeded to 10% variance. Actual labor 200, planned labor 450. So this is, again, very, very useful. This allows me to get involved in certain things I need to. Of course, the way we did this event is after the fact, once the order has been completed. We don't have to do that. We can do it during. Labor starts to creep up. We'll know right away. You can create a hyperlink so that this, when you click on it, will open up that production order so you can get involved right away. You can even put in what labor transaction, for example, and what laborer actually brought it over the 10%. So there's many different possibilities here. But again, this concludes that Executive in the Know series. In this example, production labor is over 10%. Hopefully you found this video useful, and if you did, please click the like button. If you have any questions about this or anything else Acumatica, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, and have a great day.